You know, my dear nerds, I'm gonna lay out some frustrations of mine that I have with not the Retroid Pocket 5, because objectively speaking, let me just turn this on, this is perhaps the best handheld that we had released in 2024. Actually, I'm just gonna come out and say it, this is the best handheld that we had released. So you might be asking yourself, Vlad, why are you reviewing it in 2025? Everyone and their dogs and their mothers already bought this thing. And yeah, you're perfectly right, but there's a lot of drama involved. You see, I ordered this on the 7th of November and I only got it at the end of December, just when 2025 was coming in hard and promising us a very stable year full of non-Game of Thrones plot twists. That's when the Retroid Pocket 5, 2 months later, decided to come at my doorstep. So I just want to preface before I start yammering around that this video is 100% my own. I bought this handheld with my own dineros and nobody's seeing this video beforehand, not even me, because I'm trying a new format here where I speak more directly to you with just a hint less editing so I can push more videos at once. Let me know if this is something that you like, by the way. If this format works, I could maybe make a lot more videos so that, you know, we talk basically on the daily. In a good way, not in a bad way. I would still bring good topics for us. I wouldn't just sit in front of the camera and ask you what's up. However, what I do want to do is get straight to the point and put a lot of meat and a lot of value in this video when it comes to information. You know, I'm gonna say that this handheld isn't really what it seems. When you first see it, you see a very attractive display, because the display itself, this is what makes the handheld. Let's be straight up, my dear nerds. This beautiful OLED 5.5-inch display is the reason why you should upgrade from a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro or from anything else. You might disagree with me on this, but the SoC is actually a downgrade from the one that we had in the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And I'm not necessarily talking only about performance, I'm talking about manufacturing process. And this is so freaking important and nobody seems to be talking about it, which frustrates the living poop out of me as a YouTube guy. You see, this SoC is the Snapdragon 865, which was released at the tail end of 2019, and it's built on a 7nm manufacturing process. Now, for those who don't know, what this means is that the bigger the nanometers in the manufacturing process, the more something, an SoC, a chip, will consume battery as if it's a freaking Hummer running down the street. And when you have a modern SoC, like a 3nm one, which we'll have pretty soon, then that SoC basically sips battery like fine wine. Now, my problem with this is that the SoC in the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, aka this bad boy right here, which I still love by the way, this one is 6nm, meaning that it's slightly more battery efficient than the one on the newer generation Retroid Pocket 5. And in terms of performance, we don't stand to gain that much either, because both these two, actually, let me just get this cable out of the way, both these two have very comparable performance, and this is simply a fact. However, this is where a lot of similarities end, my dear nerds, and the differences begin. Look at the difference in these screens. Now, this is not actual playback, this is a video from Emulation Station, but you get to see the extra real estate that you have when compared to the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro without actually sacrificing a lot on the size. I mean, yeah, the 5 is a bit longer, but for this screen real estate increase, I mean, it's totally worth it. Now, I'm not gonna say that everything is all sunshine and roses with the 5, because there are quite a few problems with it. For one, I am not a fan, and bear in mind this is totally subjective, I will not try to pass this as fact, but the glass front on this simply gives me anxiety. In case you noticed, I actually put a screen protector on, and I'm actually proud of the way in which I put it, even though if you look closer, it's not really 100% aligned, but I put the screen protector on, and I'm still convinced that if I drop it, this one will incur way more damage than the trusty old Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And actually, this is a way bigger discussion which we as a community should be having about the fact that we seem to be departing from plastic handhelds. Every premium handheld these days seem to want to be made out of glass, and call me crazy, my dear nerds, but I'm not a fan of that. Give me something durable. I don't care if it looks or feels just a tiny bit less premium. I want something which I know survives me roughing it up a bit. I might accidentally drop it, I might accidentally leave it on a coffee table, and my very, very non-smart cat might come and be like, this is what cats do. They just tip over stuff. Maybe I will one day have a partner that doesn't realize that my ability to maybe have a heart attack in my mid-30s is directly correlated with a new toy like this breaking. So the toy needs to be very resilient, so, anxiety goes away. But this is very important. I know I'm coming out very strong, quote-unquote, against the Retroid Pocket 5, but that's not what I'm doing. I actually love this handheld. I'm gonna say it straight up, this is the best handheld that I had and that I have. Well, that isn't Linux related, I mean. This one is my go-to. I aim to grab this one whenever I need something with Android, but at the same time, I wouldn't compare this with the Mio Mini or the Anbernic RG40XXH. Those I love probably even more in a different way. But for the Android world, the Android landscape of handhelds, I think the Retroid Pocket 5 is bang for the buck, the best that we have. So, giving this disclaimer out of the way, my dear nerds, I want to talk about some other things that just simply bother me about this handheld. Look, a lot of people will say that I'm totally crazy with this, and I agree. Maybe it's the size of my hand, I don't know, what can I fit in my hand, so you get a point of reference. Retroid Pocket 4 Pro for hand size reference. My dear nerds, these freaking grips on the back, these bumps, they totally work against me. I would prefer something flat like the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro any time of the day, and I'm not even joking with this. You see, when I hold this, my fingers lay on the back quite comfortably. I have access to the bumpers, to the triggers. I think that something is different about the joysticks as well, because when I operate this, I don't feel like the joysticks intrude. However, when I hold this, now I have these predefined ergonomics that work against me. You see, when I have this position, I feel like the thumbsticks are way more easier to touch with the middle section of my thumbs, and this always annoys the living poop out of me. Now, the only way in which I can prevent this is to keep the handheld like this and play it like this, and this allows me to have way greater control of the sticks. But look at my wrist position right here. Now, I'm not saying that you might have to hold it like this. Maybe you have smaller hands, maybe you have bigger hands, then definitely get Xbox-like grips for this. But for my particular use case, I just feel like I need to hold it like this in order to have better button control, and then my wrists actually suffer. With the 4 Pro, however, I never had this problem. This just, to me, again, remember, this is subjective as heck, this just seems a million times more comfortable. I can play this for hours, whereas this, after 50 minutes or so, I feel like I need a small break. But I want you to not be too impacted about what I'm saying right now, because part of it is my particular use case. Overall, I am convinced that in case you don't have a Retroid Pocket 5 and you have other Android handhelds, you can mostly sell all the others and just buy this one, at least until, you know, new toys come along. But bear in mind, this doesn't apply to 4.3 inch Android handhelds. I truly continue to think that 4.3 is the optimal aspect ratio for retro handhelds like the RG406H from Amberneck. But there's a lot of positives here as well which I need to cover. First off, it's the wired charging. This bad boy actually has 27 watt wired charging, fast charging, which means that it's officially my fastest charging handheld that I have in the house. I can put it to charge when I see that I have 10% or something, and I can go do my things. I can change the liter tray, I can make some food, not necessarily in this order. I can read the newspaper and bing bam bam, I blink, I think of existence a bit, and this thing is at 100%. It's actually truly amazing at how fast this actually charges. And that's a good thing, especially because this thing actually has enough performance to totally crush PS2. And PS2 has always been one of my most important systems that I always wanted to emulate. You see, it's no secret by now that I love a certain series of games called Legacy of Kain Defiance. This is called Legacy of Kain. There's 5 games in the series, and Legacy of Kain Defiance, aka this one, is the last of that series, released in 2005. And with the Retroid Pocket 5, I can basically have all of them in one single system, and I've been wanting this ever since I was a freaking kid back in 2003. I could also do this, bear in mind, on other Android handhelds, but that extra performance that I have here allows me to play everything with 2x, with the scanline filter on, with a bit of anti-aliasing as well, without even needing to look at the FPS. Everything runs perfectly here. Even my biggest, most hard game to emulate from the ones that I prefer, Need for Speed Underground 1. This simply works like a charm, and I'm at, I think, 2x, let me double check, don't want to speak out of my backside here, 2.25, even better, heck yeah. And it works like a freaking dream. Just look at this. It's absolutely amazing. I'm talking about the performance, and the game is, in my opinion, one of the best that were released during the PS2 era. However, the main perfect system for something like the Retroid Pocket 5 is undoubtedly PSP. Now, don't get me wrong, you need to understand the thing about PSP, my dear nerd. When you play PSP on something like the Retroid Pocket 5, just look at this. I want you to absorb the proper context here. This is not the experience that you would get if you were to play on original hardware. This is elevated in every way possible. You see, my dear nerds, PSP is one of those platforms which are native 16:9, and because they are native, you basically have pixel perfect image. Just by increasing that internal resolution, you essentially get to play what feels like a remastered version of the PSP game that you were hankering for. And this is something that the Retroid Pocket 5 does perfectly. There's no other way in which I would rather play PSP than this device right here. And of course, because this looks like a freaking PS Vita, this makes PSP play on it all the better. Just look at this. Look at how the effects look here and how the experience itself looks. It's simply amazing. I forgot to press. I'm obviously not the best player of this game, but holy poop on a stick, is this not an amazing experience. And the same premium experience carries on to Android games as well. I bet you know what this is. This is the Android port of Little Nightmares, and on every device that I showed this game on, we had either vertical bars or horizontal bars with a pretty horrible looking gradient on it, because the developers were too lazy to optimize this game on Android for different aspect ratios. But because this screen is 16:9, just like the original resolution that the port had, we don't have any black bars here. It's simply flawless. Just look at how it looks. This is one of the most premium experiences that you can have when it comes to playing console Android ports on something. And I really think this game doesn't get enough recognition. Just look at how beautiful it looks, even with graphics being a bit more muted and a bit toned down for, you know, Android device accessibility reasons. But it still looks freaking amazing as it is. There's simply no other way to put it. This is the best way to play something like Little Nightmares, way better than your phone, because there you'd have black bars, way better than any device really, even better than the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro because of the bigger screen. KOTOR, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, another Android port, well, I think that this game is only playable at the minimum on the Retroid Pocket 5, because, well, partly this is again my fault because I'm blind as a bat, but on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, for example, the game still runs buttery smooth. But unfortunately, because the screen is a little too small and because this game has a lot of text to it, the experience is just greatly enhanced on the 5. And I'm solely talking about screen size here. The performance is unrecognizably the same. It seems like these two are literal brothers when it comes to performance, at least to my untrained eye. Now, bear in mind, you will find some differences if you look at benchmarks, but benchmarks don't really bring happiness, my dear nerds. In fact, that's why I never do benchmarks on this channel unless the difference between two devices is big. But this is not the case here. Other consoles, which I will not name, also run pretty good. Here we have wait, do I have FPS? Yes, we have Broforce at 60 FPS, which is absolute perfection if you ask me. Just look at this. And mission failed. Same with Portal and many others. These games simply run like butter, and it's actually quite a trip to see Portal on something like this. Just look at how cute it looks, and more importantly, totally playable. You know, this is basically a cube simulator right here. Come on, give me the flipping cube. Yes! You know, this exercise right here was more educational than in my entire 4 years of college. Cloud streaming also works like a freaking charm, in case you were wondering. This is me playing the first Tomb Raider on GeForce Now. There's absolutely no perceivable latency, which I can tell, and just look at this. It looks freaking gorgeous. There's really something about playing AAA games on something shaped like a PS Vita. It's, my dear nerds, it's a totally different, more enhanced kind of pleasure than any other handheld that I felt. And in case you're wondering how the best game in the world looks like on the Retroid Pocket 5, well, here we are, my dear nerds. This is, I'm sure you know, The Witcher 3, which is a beautiful game with an exceptional, absolutely freaking exceptional story. I'm not even overhyping this. I'm not saying exceptional just for the heck of it. This game reignited my passion to play games back in 2016 or 2017. I had a huge gap in playing games before this, and this freaking game made me play hours and hours back to back. I can't even tell you how much I love this game. This is simply one of the best games out there. For me, probably the best game out there. And in case you have good enough falcon eyes to make do with the size of this text, this is a perfectly playable experience. I mean, besides the text size, it's literally how I would imagine The Witcher 3 reimagined for handhelds. It's kind of it's kind of trippy to play it on such a device. In a good way. For all the other consoles and handhelds that are older than what I showed you up until this point, just assume that everything works like a breeze, because it does. This is honestly way more overpowered, just as its tinier little older brother was, for everything that was below PS2 and Switch. Everything just works with shaders enabled, with whatever you want you can basically max out. So honestly, there's no point in me going through each console so that you see that it works. It works, you just have to trust your, well, balding old nerd friend for this. And everything looks really genuinely amazing on this handheld. It's all about the screen with the Retroid Pocket 5. If you don't really want a quote-unquote bezel-less type of display like this, which is bigger than what the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro had, then a lot of the appeal that you might have for the 5 suddenly vanishes. But the Retroid Pocket 5, my nerds, this is one heck of a complete package. You simply, for the price that this goes for, I don't think that you can find something that gives you remotely similar vibes to this. You don't. You simply don't have any other option on the market right now. This, looking like a PS Vita, really goes a long way for our primordial nerd brains. We really want things that remind us of the thing that we used to touch when we used to play stuff like this. So currently, I would advise that you get a Retroid Pocket 5 if this design and this kind of power fits your bill, and if this is something that you want. Bear in mind, remember the limitations. I did talk about the SoC being on a more inferior manufacturing process than its predecessor, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. This means you will have a bit more heat, a bit more battery drain eventually. I can't really tell a difference in terms of battery with these two. I think the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro actually lasts a bit longer, but this is all very subjective data. I didn't do an actual real-world test to see. This is just based on the feeling that I had. My biggest problem though wasn't really with the handheld itself, but in the way and the convoluted process that I ended up getting it. You see, props to Retroid on not giving me any special quote-unquote YouTuber privilege. They sent it to me as I bought it, because again, a reminder, I bought this with my own money. They basically told me that I have to wait in line, in the pre-order line, like all the others. And I didn't really have a problem with this. What really bothered me though, and I don't want to burn bridges with Retroid in case me and them ever eventually collaborate with them sending me review units, but what really pissed me off was the fact that the day when mine was supposed to ship came and passed and the package still wasn't shipped. I had to email them a few times, basically nudging them, hey, what about my package? My package was supposed to be delivered on a specific date and they just moved on with the rest of the orders. I was not a fan of that, to say the least. And then there was UPS. This is not Retroid's fault, I need to mention this. This is a UPS problem. UPS was the only courier that I had as a choice for Romania, and I like to believe that there's a lot of Romanian nerds out there wanting to buy Retroid products. And UPS, it was fairly expensive, that's not my main complaint, it was $45. The point is that UPS almost lost my package. I had to talk to UPS like 5 more times, and at one point that poor woman at UPS, my nerds, like I think I freaking terrorized her by accident. That poor woman at one point told me, Mr. Vlad, I don't know any more about the package than you. If it doesn't come, file a complaint. And ironically enough, it came the next day or something, but that was after dealing with UPS for more than 2 weeks, I think. So needless to say, there was a lot of drama and a lot of headache that I had to go through in order to get this bad boy. This handheld is amazing. Now, if I were to be honest, what would I actually have wanted to see would have been a 4nm SoC. You see, there are a lot of 4nm chips which aren't expensive. Well, maybe a bit more expensive than what Retroid probably procured. I'm going with procured. The Snapdragon 865, but the efficiency in battery drain that we would have got would have been something that I personally would have loved. There's simply a whole other vibe that you have when you don't have the paranoia that if you push the SoC to the max, that would genuinely tear through the battery way faster. When you have a lower nanometer manufacturing process, even if you put the SoC in full throttle, it's cooler and it's more power efficient. Unless the manufacturer overclocks it to oblivion, but that's another story. So, how do I feel about this? Well, I want to say this isn't necessarily Retroid's fault with the whole situation that I had with the Retroid Pocket 5. They basically told me, Vlad, you're not special, stay in the line. I actually respect that. I don't want YouTuber privilege. If I am to be honest, I would have loved if they collabed with me and they would have sent me a review unit, but they didn't. I bought it. Again, this is not a big deal. The problem was, from the moment of ordering up until it came into my hands, I felt my frustration just ballooning. But this is, I'm sure, a regional thing. A lot of the drama happened with the regional UPS branch in Romania, so in Western Romania to be more precise, so it most probably doesn't affect you. The handheld itself is pretty good for what it is. I didn't have a lot of the problems that people on Reddit seem to have. A lot of people complained about standby drain. I'm pretty sure that was fixed with OTA update. And there were some other problems on Reddit. A lot of people already broke them. So the theory is that the glass isn't really something super hard like Gorilla Glass Victus or any of those fancy glasses. So just to make it full circle, if you want this, it's amazing. But I'm afraid that you will have to baby this little mother flipper way more than you'd have to baby the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. Now, between these two, well, there's a lot more to talk about this. I might actually make a comparison video between the two, but you know, I already talked for 35 minutes. I don't want to do a lot of editing here, so I might make another video comparing these two if you want to see that, my dear nerds. In the meantime, in case you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. This is very important. And if you want to support me more directly, please consider becoming either a Patreon or a YouTube channel member. I would appreciate it immensely. But if you can't, then that's totally okay. I'm just glad you're here and you're inherently having this talk with me. We're basically having a talk right now, and in a weird way, I know I can't see you, I'm not crazy, but it's like talking to a friend. It really feels like that. I mean, there was a lot of emotion in this video. It was literally how I would talk at a table with one of my nerdy friends, because essentially this is what's happening right now. Let me know what you think. I know this wasn't really a comprehensive review of the Retroid Pocket 5. I might make another video where I go more in depth, but I think I covered a lot of points with this one. Actually, I should make another video where I go way more in depth with this, because I totally skipped over the buttons and a lot of the other things. But tell me what you think in the meantime. Do you love it more than anything else that you have in your what's probably a collection by this point? Tell me how you feel in the comments below. I genuinely read all of them, my dear nerd. And we'll see each other next time.